UNC has been active in the transfer portal. Hubert Davis, active in the transfer portal. And if their actions are saying one thing, right, if there's like one message being sent from UNC basketball this transfer portal season, it is this. They will not be undersized again next year. No matter what happens, no matter who they play, UNC will not be undersized on the court next season. Going into games, we won't be saying how are they going to overcome for the size disadvantage. We won't be talking about any of that. Jarin Stevenson joins Henry Vasar, Kyan Evans, and Jonathan Powell in UNC's portal class. Jarin Stevenson committed over the weekend. He was a player, by the way, that had some NC State buzz in the transfer portal, so I'm sure UNC fans are enjoying a little bit of that. Although I'm sure some had to backpedal when they thought Jarin Stevenson might have been going to NC State. Oh, he's not even that good. And then he commits to UNC. Actually, I was lying. He's exceptional. Stevenson was the 50th ranked recruit in the country out of Pittsburgh. So he's a North Carolina guy. Spent 2 years at Alabama and is now coming back to his home state to play for the Tarheels. That's got to be fun. That's got to be, right? You used to not be able to do that, right? So
UNC recruited him heavily out of high school.
I imagine darn near everybody did. 50th in the country.
Oh, yeah.
Pittsburgh's
not far from Chapel Hill.
And he's 6'11". Like it's not exactly a prospect that hides, right? It's not like, oh, we knew he had potential, but it's like, no, he's 6'11". He stood out, right? It's a thing. Here's my computer's acting all weird. Here's what's going on. Henry Vasar. There we go. 7 feet tall. Goes to UNC out of the transfer portal. Stevenson, 6'11". Goes to UNC out of the transfer portal. Jonathan Powell, 6'6", perimeter player, shooter. Goes to UNC out of the transfer portal. Kyan Evans out of Colorado State, the point guard, is 6'2". He's really the only one that's not coming in with tremendous size. But then you look at the incoming recruiting class. Caleb Wilson, 5-star power forward out of high school. He's listed at 6'9". Isaiah Dennis, a combo guard, 4-star. He's listed at 6'5". Drake Powell, who's still in the mix, 6 feet 6 inches tall, can play the perimeter and springy, athletic. Then Allen Lubin still in the mix, 6'8", and played bigger than that, especially down the stretch this past year. And he no longer has to be like the big dude. He can be the supplemental big guy to these others with better size. That is a big basketball team. That is a stark contrast to last year, who starting at the beginning of the year, we were going, what's our confidence? What's our concern? The concern was like, I don't know. They don't have a big guy. Even like the Jalen Withers, the Jalen Washingtons, right? The players that were on the team and were taller, they weren't big guys, right? They were shooters in some respect. They like to meander away from the bucket. Like now they have size that, for lack of a better term, like they know they're big. Right? Like Vasar knows he's big, right? Jarin Stevenson, he's 6'11". He plays like he's 6'11". That's not to say you don't have skills to, move away from the bucket if you have to, if that's what the game plan calls for, if the other team can't match up with it.
Shot a good amount of threes.
We're talking about Stevenson or
Stevenson,
Vasar?
Yeah.
Yes, both. And Vasar about one a game, about 32 and something percent. They can go away, but they also mouse in the house. Right, that's the pickup term, right? When you're a big guy and you have a small guy guarding you, you yell mouse in the house and you go to the bucket. Both of these guys can do that. And they can defend guys that are big. That is a big difference from last year. Now here's the only struggle I have with it. What have we heard about the way Hubert Davis wants to play basketball? They want to run, right? Want to run, which is part of the reason why I think so many were optimistic about this past year's team, even without Armando Bacot and with a quote-unquote smaller team, is, well, now actually Hubert Davis gets to play the basketball he's always wanted to play, right? When you have Bacot, you play that way because you have Bacot, and it's great. And you do that because you kind of morph to the ability of your best players, but now you get to run. Is Hubert Davis going so all in on size? and thus going against what he believes is like the best version of basketball because he is pressured, because he feels like he has to? Or is he adapting and being flexible and saying, I've learned from my mistakes and this is the way I now see is the best to attack? It's just a small difference, but I think his motivation matters. By the way, Cade Tyson hit the transfer portal for UNC on the way out. Did not end up working himself into a role in Chapel Hill. Probably a case where, shake hands, we tried, didn't work, move on. Never the twain shall you meet again. But another roster spot, right, for one of these guys to fill. Stevenson is when you look at it, in addition to the size thing, which I think is noticeable, right? It's they didn't solve a problem with a hammer. They solved it with a wrecking ball. Like they're coming in very little like stealth. We're gonna be a big basketball team this year. Stevenson also brings, because of his recruiting pedigree, because he was desired out of the portal, it brings some of the like, hey, we were chosen vibes, which I think is important. And this might be me looking too far into the psychology of like 18 to 23-year-olds when some of them are 100% just looking for cash and they're going to the highest bidder. But I also think they are looking for others with options to choose a school to make it so they can choose the school, if that makes any sense. It's they want to follow other it happens in football, and that's always kind of the way I look at it, where like a quarterback commits early and then suddenly you have like a defensive end committing right after. And I'm going like, well, I mean, they help each other, obviously. They help each other win, but it's not like the defensive end's catching passes from the quarterback or anything. But it literally was just, okay, now a hugely attractive prospect picked the school. They broke the seal. Now I can go join them. Jarin Stevenson might end up being a little bit of that, right? He's a guy with a ton of options, could have gone anywhere, could have gone to other places in state, other places in the conference, and he chose UNC, and that's a big deal. Especially when maybe what is normally the biggest sizzle, some of the biggest sizzle in the country for a program like UNC is a little down after this past year. And guys leaving and everything else. That's the other crazy part about the portal. Keep in mind, everybody, I don't think any of us know how to appropriately react to the portal yet. Like we need 20 years of like portal experience before anyone can be an expert at reacting to it. But like UNC, they really haven't dealt with like Elliot Cadeau going to Michigan. Because like nobody has. They really haven't dealt with Ian Jackson hitting the portal and going somewhere that people might consider as a better fit. Right? They've always been considered like the best fit, and they just kind of named their prospects in a lot of ways and got who they were looking for. This is strange, right? And Jarin Stevenson turned him down once. Now Dennis brought it up, right? They recruited him heavy out of high school, and they didn't win that. Alabama did. Now they're bringing him in as kind of like a second opportunity, but it's just different. I don't know how to react to that. I don't know how much you keep the door open for guys that said no last time. Probably is a sliding scale with how good they are, right? But it's an interesting beast. Do you know who I think is going to have a really fun season? Kyan Evans. If he ends up being the point guard, he's a guy that shot darn near 45% from three.
Oh yeah,
and he's just going to have all these big dudes running with him, and he gets to be the maestro. That sounds really fun. Really fun for a team that needs to have some fun. Last year was laborious at times.
By the way, Stevenson at Alabama in each of those first two seasons averaged taking 2.7 3-pointers per game.
There you go.
So just under 3-pointers per game. Again, that's also mostly being in a reserve role coming off the bench. And granted, Alabama's roster was pretty stacked this the last couple of years, getting to a Final Four and obviously getting to an Elite Eight this year. Maybe he just needs that opportunity to play more, and then you might see him flourish a little bit more. But a 6'11" guy that is extremely athletic, good defender, and is also willing and capable of shooting from the outside, I mean, that's like every coach's dream, right? 6'11" guy that can stretch the floor.
Well, let's also remember that you don't get on the floor at Alabama if you're not shooting threes.
Yes.
They were very much like an open three is the best shot you can take. They broke the record for threes in a NCAA tournament game this year.
25.
And the attempts to match, like they launched. So Jarin Stevenson could come to UNC and look at this. He's a stretch four, all this shooting. Look at what he did. He also could show up at UNC and go, I don't have to take every first three that I see. I'm allowed to pump fake and drive and try to dunk on somebody. Like it'll be interesting to see how Hubert Davis uses him. But trust me, it's better to have the option to have the 6'11" guy shoot threes than it is to go, oh, no, you don't shoot threes. We'll figure out some other way.
Hey, he started 22 games this year for Alabama.
Good player. Like I said, options. There's not, I'd bet you there's not 5 programs in the country that if he expressed like interest in going there, wouldn't have found a way to come up with the scholarship. He chose them. That's a big deal.